All right. We are here.
How we going here? Are we right?
Yeah, we're right there. You can either sit back and then just bring
Yeah.
the microphone back, but welcome to another episode of Unbuttoned. We've got Aaron Schembri.
There you go.
Aaron.
G'day, mate. How are you? I'm just getting comfortable. Hang on.
Yeah, that's all right.
There we go.
I'm good.
Good.
How are you?
Good, mate. Thanks for having me. This is fun.
Yeah.
We haven't even started yet.
It's a little bit of fun.
Well, you know.
I just love talking to people and like highlighting everybody's origin story. And
That's a good thing
yeah.
because I think it gets swept under the carpet a bit
Yeah.
sometimes, you know.
It definitely does. And then as an individual, I think you forget, because we're so busy, you forget like how far you've come. And so this is a real, it's a real interesting setup because, you know, we've both got our phones off. We're having a one-on-one conversation, like headphones on. We can hear each other.
We're doing it like we're in, you know, the 1930s where we're just talking to somebody.
Exactly. And it's, you know, like in today's day and age, like you get notifications, like people emailing you, people calling you, like Instagram, blah, blah, blah. Like it's just so busy, you know.
Doesn't stop.
Yeah.
And we've got a chance to get back to reality.
Exactly.
It's good.
So you're a musician.
Yeah.
How long you been playing music for?
I learned piano when I was 9,
Mm-hmm.
and I got to high school and I thought, well, piano's not really cool enough to be, you know, to be playing that as an instrument. And
Yeah.
I was like, well, I spoke to mum and dad, and I'm like, I'd like to give guitar a go.
Yeah.
And probably the best thing I did was, you know, still play piano, and you know, it kind of it sticks with me still now, you know.
Yeah, right.
So I still play piano, but I learnt the guitar, and I was like, yeah, I think this is me.
Actually, just hang on. I just need to fix that camera.
Yeah.
So you gave up piano and then straight into guitar.
Straight into guitar. My first concerts as a young bloke, well, I'm sure we'll talk about it later, but as a toddler, I was one of those kids in the 90s that went to see the Wiggles, and, you know, first introduction to music, I suppose.
Yeah.
And, I remember about 8 or 9, Mum took me to see John Farnham at the Palais.
Yeah.
And then not long after that, Dad tried to outdo Mum, and well, we better go see John Fogerty from, you know, the Creedence heyday, you know. And I remember watching John Fogerty. I can't remember where it was, but I remember watching him, and he had a different guitar for every song. And that was when the light bulb went off in my head. It's like, what is this music thing? And, you know, here I am.
John Farnham at the Palais would have been
Unreal.
Yeah.
Unreal. I can remember one thing that sticks out to me about that gig was the fact that he held his microphone out here and he was singing. Like that's out of this world, you know, and for him to be singing with the mic out there like that and then still be singing in full voice.
Yeah.
It's like, that's a lot of power in your voice. I'd never seen anything like it. And still, you know, even seeing him a couple of years ago or whenever it was, he still had that power, you know, in his voice. So
and that's interesting with artists, right? Like when you listen to their albums and then you see them live, sometimes you can get like a little bit disappointed because they don't sound like the album, because there's a lot of like sound engineering and all that type of stuff that goes into it.
And the thing is too, like with records is, you know, some records have 10 guitar parts on it.
Yeah.
And you look on stage and there's only 2 of them, and it's like, well, how do they do 10 guitar parts? They're not going to sound like the record.
Yeah.
Prime example is like I went to see Bob Dylan, and he totally transformed all of his classic hits Blowing in the Wind and, That's All Right Ma, I'm Only Bleeding, they were completely redone. So whoever was in the crowd had no idea that the songs were going to go the way they did. And I loved it because I was like, well, if you want to listen to the record and you want to listen to Bob Dylan from 1962, go listen to the record. He's nearly 80. He's doing them how he wants to do it, And I was mesmerized with it,
And it's good that he didn't do it like he did like in the 60s.
Yeah.
He did it how he wanted to do it at the age that he
now.
was at now.
Yeah, that's right. And I think that's pretty cool because music's a forever evolving thing, whether it's within yourself or what you're listening to at the time. You might listen to one album for 6 months straight, but then after that you're going to find something else, and it's like that's what you're into at the time. It's the same kind of thing, really, And as an artist, you kind of, for myself personally, I was in the blues thing for quite a while. Then I went to country. Then I kind of went back to playing blues. So I'm, whatever you're doing at the time is what you're putting out, I suppose, from yourself.
How did you find that transition from like blues to country?
Well, I mean, the thing is, like, it all crossovers. It's all crossover, It's like people forget that, you listen to a pop song now, and if you trace it back, you're probably gonna, touch on, the Rolling Stones, or the Beatles, like the greatest pop band in the world before pop was even a thing, really.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I like to trace back and go, well, if they got it from here, who'd they get it from? And then who'd they get it from? So next thing you know, you're listening to 30s blues stuff with this one black man playing guitar, recording straight onto a piece of vinyl. I find that incredible. It's fascinating, It's like mistakes and all. They're all on the record. It's unbelievable.
It is. It's interesting when you can recognize and notice the mistakes.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, that was actually like pretty cool,
It is. Robert Johnson, for example, like one of his albums on vinyl I've got, and that would have been recorded straight to vinyl at the time, through one of those gramophone-looking things. And it's like mistakes, out-of-tune guitar, he's singing against his guitar playing, like it's so rough. But, I just find it so fascinating. It's like, again, back to, whether it's a musician or whoever, at the time, how are they feeling? And then bang, it's straight out into music. It's amazing.
A friend of mine, actually, a special friend of mine, is in the UK, and she's fascinated with the Beatles.
Oh, cool.
And so she was going around
Liverpool,
and like all the spots where the songs were kind of like took their inspiration from. And I was talking to her the other day. Well, I'm talking to her every day, but like I was talking to her the other day, and she was like, Penny Lane and, the psychiatric hospital and like all this type of stuff.
Eleanor Rigby,
Yeah.
I did that same thing when I was over there. So I get it. It was the coolest thing I think that I experienced doing that was the house that John Lennon and Paul McCartney used to sit in and write songs when they were teenagers.
Yeah.
And you look at the place and you go, geez, they were in there, recording or writing She Loves You, stuff like that. And then there'd be screaming people out the front of their house, It's just like, it's insane.
And just the way that they always interpreted like the characters in a really nice way.
Yeah.
Even though they could have been, like drug dealers or addicts or like whatever.
Yeah, it's pretty cool, isn't it?
The whole interpretation of it, I think, is really interesting from like a storytelling point of view. And like once you go to those places and see what inspired particular verses and things like that, I think can be like it brings more meaning to the actual song, right?
It's pretty surreal because you're there in the thick of it. Same for me when I was in America, like places like Chicago. Like, I just remember sort of standing there going, I'm in the home of the blues. Like, Chicago, like Chess Records is the studio in Chicago, and that, you know, had all the greatest blues songs, you know,
Yeah.
from Buddy Guy to, you know, even Aretha Franklin and Etta James. You know, I've heard those songs so many times,
Yeah.
and then I'm standing in Chess Studios, and I'm like, this is. Somebody pinch me, you know. It's like and then the tour guide's telling you stories about it, and you're just you're just off into another world. It's unreal.
Yeah. Those I live for those pinching moments.
Yeah,
You're like, oh my God, like this is actually happening.
and especially when it means something to you too, because you're like, you know, you can put it into words, but it won't mean anything to anybody else but you. You know, it doesn't matter what it is really, whether it's to do with music or not to do with music. It's like, yeah, it's pretty powerful. Music's powerful stuff.
It's powerful because I think, like we all ultimately have a frequency and we operate at a frequency and a vibration. And when you resonate or when you hear a song that you really like, it's probably because it's like playing at a particular frequency that mimics your own frequency.
Yeah. It's funny you say that. Well, I mean, we could talk about the Beatles all day. I'm happy to do that if you want. But somebody, I saw an interview with somebody, I can't remember who it was, and they were talking about the Beatles at the time and how people could relate to it, whether it was teenagers or you know, the parents of the teenagers at the time. And he goes, the common thing with Beatles music is the bass drum is playing as if it were a heartbeat. And I was like, and I sort of thought about it, and I was like, that is so true. And it's like, well, did that have a big part in connecting with people?
Was it intentional or was it by accident?
I don't know. Like that's what sort of baffled me a bit. I was like, that's an interesting way to look at it. Is it coincidence?
Yeah. Is that the reason why they became so successful?
They were pretty good songs too.
Yes.
No, I know.
Yes, they're pretty good songs.
Yeah.
But again, like you kind of, if you get real deep into analyzing all aspects of it, you kind of go, I get that, like the greats will have a great understanding of all different elements, and then they put all those elements together.
Yeah.
But like the thing about the bass drum, like if it was intentional, it's great. It's like that's fucking masterpiece.
Winner.
Yeah, like that's a masterclass in how to put a song together. But if it was by accident,
it's a good mistake. It's a good mistake, I tell you.
Yeah,
it's pretty cool, isn't it?
Yeah,
yeah, unbelievable.
There are quite a few apps that you can get for like, because of like mental health and like relaxation and calming and all this, and they play like frequency sounds and stuff. So that's how come I was like, I was mentioning about this whole frequency piece.
Yeah.
And running at a certain vibration and things like that. So
yeah, right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know much about it, but it's fascinating.
Yeah.
That's a thing.
Okay, so you started playing piano, then you switched to guitar, and you've done like blues and then country, and then so you're back to blues now, or what would you call your style?
I think if we go back a bit, the first pub band I was playing in, I was 15.
Yes, you were 15. What was that? Were you shitting your dacks?
Well, I saw people shitting their dacks. It's funny because, like, I look back now and I go, how did you survive? Like, because being so young in a pub, my dad would take me to the gigs and I'm playing with people that were in their 40s, playing to people that were in their 40s. So it was a very mature environment to be around. So playing in that band kind of opened my eyes a lot to the real world, alcohol, drugs, bar fights. I saw so many fights at that age, and I was just like, yeah, maybe this isn't what I want to do. So it was a real eye opener. But at the time, we were playing like classic rock stuff. So playing covers of like AC/DC, the Stones, Deep Purple, all that sort of stuff. So that was kind of, I don't know if it was my thing, but at the time it was like, okay, this is a good place to start.
Good foundation.
Good foundation to be in. And then, as time goes on, I suppose it's like anything you do, you mature with it and you kind of, take bits and pieces of whatever it is you're doing or whatever you see other people doing. And then you kind of mold yourself out of it, So, the classic rock thing was the first, I suppose, kind of musical taste.
Yeah, I think it's interesting that your mum took you to John Farnham and then your dad took you to the next one because he wanted to outdo you, and then he's taking you to the pub.
Yeah, I know.
To kind of like,
there you go, son.
Yeah, like he would have been really proud.
Yeah, my parents are very proud.
Yeah,
like people say that you've got you'll hear people say, "Oh, my parents are the best in the world," but geez, they really are, because they would take me to gigs, they would buy me a guitar if I needed a guitar or strings or a lead or whatever it is, and I certainly wouldn't be doing the things I do now if it weren't for that. Back then, you take it for granted at the time because you're just a young, stupid 15-year-old. You know what I mean? So
we were all 15.
Well,
once.
yeah, that's part of life.
Did you have have you got any siblings that you?
Brother and a sister. I'm the oldest of.
You're the okay. You're the oldest.
I didn't set a very good example.
No, you were. You were the example. You were the test case.
Yeah,
you were the example that your
crash course dummy.
Yeah. all the rules that they put on you, they didn't have to give them to your brother and sister.
Well, no. But in saying that, like, there's the three of us, and we are three completely different. I don't know if you've got siblings.
Yeah.
So you're probably chalk and cheese.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, there you go. So my brother's a chippy.
Okay.
I play music, and my sister was doing dancing at for the last 10 years or whatever it was.
Yeah.
And now she's like studying to be a beauty therapist.
Okay.
Like, she got the brains, I think, between me and my brother. So back to my folks, they're the kind of people that will support you no matter how ridiculous your dreams are. That's pretty
love
cool.
that.
Oh, man, I do too. It's really cool. And I probably don't tell them that as much as I should.
Shout out to mum and dad.
Absolutely. Because I wouldn't be doing it, I tell you.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
Always lived in Melbourne?
Always lived in Melbourne, yeah.
Okay.
Northern suburbs.
Yeah.
And I've just moved from northern suburbs to the northern suburbs.
Same but different.
Yeah, kind of.
Yeah. And okay, so classic rock. So you moved away from like doing covers and pub stuff, and then did you still do classic rock like after that, or what was the transition?
Yeah, I mean, not long after that band, I had a call from a guy called Darby Lee, who was playing bass for the original AC/DC singer.
Mm-hmm.
And he goes, "We've got a handful of shows coming up in country Victoria. Do you want to come play guitar?" So I was like 18 at the time. I'm like, man, I'm in. And, anything to do with AC/DC, I'm in.
Yeah.
And so I got into that. I was still doing the classic rock thing. So he was doing a lot of the hits he had with AC/DC before Bon Scott had joined. So I was doing that. And I remember at the time I was sort of delving into different genres, mainly because I was hanging around with Ross Hannaford from Daddy Cool, who was the guitar player, and he was into reggae, classic rock to reggae. Like, work that out. But I was so open to it,
Yeah.
and I was trying to connect the dots and go, okay, so reggae's like this because at the time this was happening, and like trying to piece it all together. So yeah, at the time I was like reggae to rock and roll, blues, country. I was in everything, like, you know, and I was still trying to work out what it is that I enjoyed playing on stage, most of all, you know. But yeah, I'm at the point now where I'll get called to do a blues gig and I'm happy as Larry. I'll get called in to do a country gig and I'm happy as Larry, you know.
I think it's really cool how you tried like lots of different things, because then you learnt how to appreciate the different elements.
Absolutely.
And then, you know, it's kind of created who you are. And with the fact that you just said that you can go and do a blues or go and do a country and, you know that you're going to do a good job and enjoy it.
Yeah.
Like, just kind of shows that whole authenticity.
Absolutely. And I think, like, probably the biggest thing that I'd learned was to never say no to anything. So if, you know, I'm not a big fan of hair metal and 80s metal. Like, that's just not in me. But if someone sort of says, oh, have a listen to this. This is from like 1987 and it's got synthesizers and all this sort of stuff. I would sit down and listen to it and try and, you know, analyze it. Not for me to go, oh yeah, I'm going to go and study this kind of music. More to sort of to understand a different perspective of music.
Yeah.
Like, for whoever's showing me, I suppose, you know, where they're coming from.
Yeah.
Because everybody knows what they like to listen to, right? You know,
But because you're an artist and you understand the process of making music.
Yeah, absolutely.
When you listen to music, you're kind of reverse engineering it.
In a way,
and
yeah.
you're going, oh, that's what he did, or that's what they did, or this is the sequence of things that occurred.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm the same when I look at a photo. Like,
I was going to say that, yeah.
Yeah, when I look at someone else's photo, and it wasn't like that to begin with, but through my experience and understanding the process of editing or setting up a photo shoot or lighting or camera settings and all this, I can now look at a photo and work out how it was taken.
Yeah, right.
Like with different light sources, or like whether or not there's an editing style.
And you're probably trying to get into the head of the photographer.
Exactly.
Trying to work out what actually it is that he's trying to capture. Whether it's a feeling or emotion or whatever. I suppose that's kind of the same thing.
Yeah, which is this whole reverse engineering piece.
I didn't know that was a thing, but it is. I like it. Reverse engineering, it is.
Yeah.
It really is.
Because you then get a deeper understanding of either what you're looking at or what you're listening to.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I never thought of it like that. But I like it. I dig it. It's so true.
Yeah.
So true. All right.
Now, you also played for the Wiggles. Is that right?
Yeah, I do. And I tell you what, working with the Wiggles is probably the most fun I've ever had playing music. Like, you know, you get certain satisfactions out of playing your own music to people on stage, or recording your own music, or, you know, playing, you know, Blues Fest, for example, with Ross Wilson playing Eagle Rock to 10,000 screaming people.
And playing at Nashville.
Doing things in Nashville, you know, like there's all these little, you know, aspects of satisfaction from different things.
Yeah.
But playing and working with the Wiggles, there's this interesting thing where it's like, I get it because I was one of those kids. And now I'm still doing what I've always wanted to do.
Yeah.
So there's this sense of pride, I suppose, being a part of it, because you're kind of adding whatever you can to
Mm.
that brand for their audience. And, you know, playing with Ross Wilson to 70-year-olds, which is his crowds from, you know, from his history, they're kind of reliving their youth by going to see Ross perform and hearing Eagle Rock from him on stage. Takes them back to 1971. So yeah, it's a different thing, but almost kind of the same thing in a way, if that makes sense.
Yeah, totally. It's so with Ross, you're helping the audience relive what they went through all those many years ago. But then with the Wiggles, you're reliving your own experience
In a way,
but also like giving back.
and paving the way for not paving the way, but for lack of better terms, but paving the way for kids who are listening to whatever they're listening to from that brand.
Yeah.
To hopefully go, I want to be a dancer, I want to be a singer, I want to be a guitar player. Like that's pretty cool.
Because of the impact that they had on you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's like full circle.
Yeah.
I remember the first show I did with them, the four of the original guys, because there was like an OG tour, which was the original Wiggles from my childhood.
Yeah.
We did like, you know, doing like Sydney Entertainment Centre and stuff like that. So the crowd was over 18. They were so cool. And then the four of them sort of just waltzed past and they're like, yeah, thanks for playing, man. It's good fun. Because I hadn't met the other three Wiggles. I'd known Anthony, and like the four of them came in, and I was like, talk about a full circle moment. Like it was like I transported back to when I was 4.
Yeah.
To then, and I was like,
were you nervous at all? Like,
I mean, I think nowadays I don't get nervous playing.
Yeah.
I get anxious playing because if I've got to sit for another 2 hours before you got to play, what do? You run a marathon or something, you know, you got to burn the time a bit because you just want to go and do it.
You run a marathon while sitting.
in your head.
Yeah, because your mind's gone.
Absolutely.
You know.
Absolutely. I think that's actually the most difficult thing about playing music is the waiting. Not difficult. I mean, you can't really take that for granted, that whole waiting thing, because it's all part of it, I suppose. And but you kind of, I find myself sort of sitting there going, is it time yet? Like, get out of my head. I just want to go and play. Like, I know what I'm going to do. I just got to do it.
Fucking recording. God damn you.
Fuck you.
We did speak about a lot of things.
Can it tell you what we spoke about last? I'll see if I can backtrack.
No. It was like half an hour. It would have clicked over the half an hour mark. That's all right. I think I'll use like bits of what's been recorded. We might go. We'll keep going for like another half an hour.
Yeah.
Because then at least it's an hour.
Yeah.
And then
you can just...
but then I'll like with the Spotify version, I'll make that like the whole
cool.
length.
Yeah.
Because that's just audio.
Yep.
Yeah. But
whatever you need to do, mate, we do it.
Yeah. So let's recap a little bit about like the process that you would go through, like making songs. Like, so it's a little bit random, right?
Yeah. I mean, for example, like the other week I was in Sydney with the Wiggles, riding with them.
Yeah.
So Lockie, the Purple Wiggle, who I think is a incredible singer, he's unbelievable. He and I had been writing something together, and we were recording it in the studio. And then Anthony comes in, he goes, "Man, we need a song for this series that we're doing.
Yeah.
Can you write it?"
Yeah.
And I'm like, "Yeah, okay. What's it about? You know."
Do you want a sparkling water?
Oh yeah, thank you. And so I'm like, okay, yeah, what's it about? And he gives me the rundown, and so we sat down and we kind of wrote it together. So that's one of the few times where you're like, right, I need to write something now.
Yeah.
So yeah, but then sometimes it just comes off the cuff, and you're sitting at a restaurant, and then you've sort of, oh, that's a good lyric. I'll put that in my phone, and then revisit it, and then write something around that.
Yeah.
You know, give yourself a story. The last song that I just put out last week was written for a podcast and a docuseries about people that had been incarcerated, or women that had been incarcerated for money laundering or whatever. Yeah, so it was written from a perspective of a woman who has a husband and a kid, but was knocked down from everybody else that, you know, kind of getting judged. But the only thing that helped her through was, well, I've got to live for my kid and my husband, my family. So that's how that came about. So it's kind of easy at times when you know you're given something to write about, because you can sort of go, okay, well, this doesn't have to be about my life experience. This is more like, you can totally make it up.
Yeah.
You know?
So like a topic of something.
Yeah, absolutely. Whereas sometimes writing songs, you kind of wait for life experiences to happen, and then you go, oh, well, that screwed up my week, but I'll write something about it. You know?
Yeah. I had a singer on, Bridget, and she was saying that the process that she goes through is, it's really about what's going on in her life. And during COVID, pre-COVID, she mentioned that she had a partner that was into music, and he like really supported her. And so I said to her, so your songs at that point were all about love and you know, being with your partner? She said, yeah. And then when they broke up, it was all about the breakup
songs,
and,
here and there,
stuff like that. Yeah. But she said that she would like just record herself singing.
Yeah.
And then at any given moment, like in the car or walking the dog or, you know, just at home, she would like listen to the song.
Yeah.
That she just sung.
Yep.
And she would like work on it from the recording.
Yeah, and that's the thing too, like, you know, you can get into a room and jam with another three musos. And it's like you sort of look at each other and go, okay, well, somebody start something. And then you kind of, everyone goes, oh, okay, that's where he is. I'm going to follow what he's doing and try and work something from it. Whereas most of the time when you're doing your own thing solo, it's, you know, I mean, solo as in being a solo artist, you can kind of get a little bit limited being one-dimensional. Yeah. You know, because you might put something down and go, oh, that's pretty good. And then a couple of days later you go, what was I thinking?
Yeah,
like, you know, that doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Whereas I've been lucky enough to be able to send demos to people like Ross Wilson and go, hey, what do you think? You know, what could I improve?
Yeah.
You know, because, I mean, Ross, you know, he's one of Australia's greatest songwriters, really, you know.
Yeah.
So it's nice to get his perspective on it and go, kind of gauge where it's sitting and then improve whatever needs to be improved.
Did he review Breaking Chains and how it like was in the top 10?
Yeah, I sent him the demo of it.
Top 10 charts within the first week.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's pretty cool. I sent it to him and I'm like, man, this is what it is, and I've got, you know, this is the story behind it. What do you think? And he'd come back to me and kind of go, well, you sung this bit here, but it only happens here. Why don't you make that the hook? And say things like that. It's like, oh, would never have thought of doing that.
Yeah.
But then when you do it, it's like, oh, that actually makes more sense than how it was originally. You know, the same thing, like we wrote something together for his EP that he did last year. Last year. And I'd sent him this bit of music that I'd written. It was a bluesy kind of, he had a blues EP. And I'd sent it to him and I'm like, man, I'm not doing anything with this. It's all yours if you want to use it. He goes, yeah, leave it with me and I'll have a listen and see what I think. And then he emailed me back. He goes, I've cut it up a bit. You know, he's put the verse here, the chorus here. So now what hit me then was like, he produced the first two Skyhawks albums. So Living in the 70s, he produced, and I can't remember the name of the one after it. It's gone. So I was like, that's Ross Wilson doing his magic, you know, like he was producing it to how he heard it,
Yeah.
which is really cool. Yeah, two heads are better than one, innit?
To have that resource and relationship to help in like finessing your craft
Yeah.
was such a, I don't know.
It's
like
humbling.
it's humbling, but it's like a blessing,
Yeah.
you know, to be able to do that.
Yeah, it really is, because it's like I would sort of go, well, whose opinions would I trust? Not trust, whose opinions would kind of have an impact on me and the song? Like, as I said, you're very one-dimensional, so you're in your own head doing your own thing, so you can sort of skip a few you can miss a few things.
Yeah.
Like I sent something else to him, and I go, "What do you think?" And he goes, "Man, it doesn't make sense." And I was like, "Great, thanks for telling me, because I want to fix it. How would I fix it now that I know that it doesn't make sense?" And then you kind of get to work, and it's like, you know, that's pretty cool. I mean, music's not meant to be made in one go. That's the beauty of it. Like, even Lockie and I are working on this thing for a project that the Wiggles are doing, which I probably can't say too much about. But anyway, we'd written this song together over email and phone and things were changing as we'd recorded it. Then we had to re-record parts because it wasn't suited to what it's supposed to be for. And I said to him, I'm like, I really enjoy this part of writing music, when you think you've got it, but you actually don't. Then you got to go into it. You're almost like a surgeon. It's like, well, let's try this here to see if it complements. See if it complements the part before it. Like, I love doing that stuff, you know. And Ross is probably the same, because that's how he'd sent stuff back to me, like all cut up and moved and all sorts of stuff. Which is really cool.
That's,
you know?
so cool.
Yeah.
I guess we were talking about being an artist and having that deep appreciation, being able to reverse engineer something.
Yeah.
And so the reason why you're able to reverse engineer something is because you understand all the different elements that go into making something.
Yeah.
And then that allows you to slice and dice and readjust or reframe and sequencing and like all of this.
It's pretty cool. You essentially, you know, it's pretty cool that you can create something from nothing and then, you know, hopefully improve it as time goes on. Yeah. Or in some cases, you might be able to get it in one go. Yeah. And then change a couple of words or whatever. That's everybody's dream, I think. But I'm kind of the opposite. I'm like, I want to get into this song and try and make it as best as I think it could be, you know? It's pretty cool. Yeah, I totally get that. And I think I'm the same. Like, right. I know that, it would be great if everything was a straight line. Yeah. But nothing is a straight line. Nah. Like, it's meandering. Yeah. It's kind of up and down. It's around. It's, you know. And so for me, it's always been about, yes, have a goal or a destination. Explore the paths to get there, though. Yeah, explore the paths and love the process. Yeah. Because if you love the process, then it doesn't matter where the destination is. Yeah. You're enjoying yourself like along the way. Exactly, yeah, absolutely. And I don't know, I think anything to do with like the arts, you know, like music, photography, painting, if you love the process, then you have more of a chance of making like a masterpiece at the end. Yep, absolutely. then there's also the flip side is I've always been, especially in the studio, I've always been go with your instinct, your first instinct,
Mm.
or if your first instinct is pretty good, but you can make it perfect in talking mark, in your own head. But yeah, I've always been a believer of like, if that's the first thing that jumps out to you, go with it.
Yeah.
You know, because it's always going to be your best option.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
maybe that's to do with music, or it might be to do with photography.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you can get stuck analyzing things a little bit too long.
An analysis paralysis.
Yeah, that's what it is. That's it. That's exactly right.
Fucking analysis
Yep.
paralysis.
That's the one.
I think with like today's social media and this whole thing about things having to be perfect, there is this. I think that there's like two sides to it. There's people who won't post anything because they want it to be perfect,
Yeah.
and then there's people that like, nah, fuck it, let's just do
That's
it.
me.
Yeah, that's me as well. And I'm sure. Like ideally, deep down inside, I'd love for things to be perfect,
Yeah.
but
It's not.
it's not.
No.
And in actual fact, that's what makes it perfect.
Yeah. Oh,
is that
absolutely.
it's not,
Absolutely, mate. I totally with you on that one.
and it's this deep appreciation of authenticity
Yeah.
is what makes things perfect. If that kind of makes sense, you know,
Absolutely.
like if you can be more real and be more of yourself,
Yeah.
then that's fantastic. That's amazing.
That is a win.
Yeah.
I'm with you on that one. Absolutely, yeah.
I'm constantly telling like my photographer mates, like, you need to get photos of yourself up. You need to put a video of yourself, because like then people know who you are.
Yeah. And if you're promoting something that is, you know, what I was talking to somebody the other week and about this whole thing, and she goes, well, it's 2024. You're a social media person first and a musician second.
Oh shit.
And I was like, yeah, I can't understand that. And then like I actually thought about it. I was like, yeah, she's actually right. You've got to, you know, it's all about marketing, isn't it? You know, you got to market what you're doing. Otherwise, nobody knows you're doing it.
Yeah.
And what's the point if that's the case?
Yeah.
You know, I hate social media, but you have to do it. You have to be relevant or bring people into what you're actually doing. You know, yeah, it's torturous at times, but you know,
I think I agree with her to a certain extent,
yeah,
because I think as an artist, you do have to do promotion.
sure,
And if that promotion is selling yourself or like building relationships so that other people can sell yourself, then that's kind of what it is.
yeah,
Social media is so big right now because that's where the attention is. Like when TVs first came out, people were like, oh, what's this TV? Oh, you know, they were really scared about the TV.
Yeah.
And then that's where the attention went.
Right.
So then businesses were like putting ads on TV and advertising, you know, and before TV it was newspapers.
Yeah. Yep.
You know, and then when TV came out, it probably went newspapers and then radio and then TV.
Yeah.
You know, and then this thing called the internet.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, this big scary thing called the internet, which originally was set up for scientists to be able to talk to each other across countries and share their knowledge of their experiment tests.
Whatever they were doing, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, right.
and then someone was like, hey, we can actually monetize this, and let's kind of create a
Oh, right.
network. And then next thing you know, it's like,
Yeah.
like, you know, and
Now look-
people were scared of the internet. And look, people,
Yeah.
people are still scared.
Scary.
Of the
Yeah, I
internet.
know they still are. Yeah.
But like e-commerce,
Yeah.
the .com boom, like all this type of
Yeah.
stuff. You know, we
Wow.
moved away from pen and paper to more like
Yeah.
digital.
Yep.
So
Absolutely. I remember my primary school teacher saying, "You're not going to have a calculator with you all the time." God, she was wrong. You're wrong, miss.
yeah,
Technology, I suppose, isn't it?
I mean, you just like tell Siri, hey Siri,
Yeah, what's 2 plus 2?
yeah,
Oh, it's 4.
yeah. It's funny how you said that equation because if ever you come across, my philosophy is if ever I come across someone who thinks 2 plus 2 is 5, I just tell them that they're right
Yeah, okay, good. Well,
because there's no point getting into an argument.
not at all. Are you serious? No, not even wasting your breath.
Yeah.
Yep, absolutely.
So right now, social media does have all of the attention, but like, the US has just put through Parliament a ban on TikTok.
Yeah, I saw that. I don't know how they're going to go with that.
Yeah, I think I think it's like 80 days or like 180 days. They've got 180 days to sell it to an American company.
Oh, right.
Yeah, and if they don't, then it'll just get banned, right? But like, what's the next? What's the next thing?
Yeah,
The next thing is like gonna take all of the attention.
Yeah. I don't know what the next thing is.
Yeah, and then I did see something as well that Twitter still, so Elon potentially is going to relaunch Vines. Which Vines was the original short form video
Yeah.
after YouTube. YouTube
Sure.
was like long form, but Vines was his first short form.
thing, yeah.
Pre-Elon, Twitter like shut it down because they weren't making any money of it.
Yeah.
But they still have the IP. So Elon might bring it back.
Well, I think he probably will bring it back.
Yeah.
He's man of power, I think.
Yeah.
That's interesting. So now the attention span is going to go back to 4 seconds, 10 seconds, or whatever it was, as opposed to 40 seconds.
Yeah. Or like 180 seconds.
Yeah, that's a long time.
Yeah. But yeah, like so social media is just, that's where the attention is.
Yeah.
If the next big thing is, I don't know, flying paper airplanes and putting messages in paper airplanes, then that's what we'll be doing.
We'll be doing, yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's kind of, you can, it's such an important part of our lives now. Like, especially for musicians or people in the arts, in, business. It's an important, like, majority would spend money promoting online social media than going around to every radio station with a CD of your album like you would do 30 years ago. You know what I mean? Like that's just too much work.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Ross had a song called Facebook Blues, and the story about that song was, he'd come home from tour and his wife would be on Facebook. She's like, leave me alone, I'm on Facebook. Not true story, but that was what was happening at the time from what he was hearing. And he does this thing where it's like he introduces it on stage. He's like, the wife come home from tour and the wife said, leave me alone, I'm on Facebook, And then he goes, song about Facebook, but the funny thing is you're all here because you probably saw a Facebook ad.
That's like, so true.
Yeah, spot on. You're spot on. Like 30 years ago, Ross would have advertised shows on radio
Yeah.
or TV, you know,
Yeah.
as you were saying before. In the newspaper, like the gig guide used to
Or
be
like
in a newspaper.
posters on poles.
Yeah. I mean, that's still a thing now, but
Mm.
not as much as it was.
Mm.
It's just everything's online. Social media. It's like Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. It's all there,
Mm.
you know. I mean, where else are you going to promote a podcast?
Yeah, that's right.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. It's it is good, but it can be a bit much.
It can be a lot.
Yeah. To try and like comprehend
Yeah.
and like be across a lot of things.
Yep.
My advice to people who want to start something is just do it.
Yeah.
Don't think about it too much.
Do it and test where you're at with it
Yeah.
and engage from there.
Yeah. And then, as I mentioned before, like if you can fall in love with the process of doing it, then that's a good thing, because then it doesn't matter how much reach you've got or like what
that's
your
right.
engagement's like. Like,
Yeah.
I just like sitting down talking to people.
Yeah. Well, that's what it's all about, you know. That's what you enjoy, and you're going to do it regardless, really.
Yeah, yeah.
You know?
And like with my photography, like I really challenged myself, because when I started out 11 years ago, I was editing photos. One photo would take me 45 minutes.
Oh.
And I'm like, man, that's what's going on. And then fast forward 11 years, I can do it in 3 minutes.
Yeah, and get the same result.
And get
Yeah.
and even then get an even better result, because I know what I'm doing and I know what my style is. And
Absolutely,
I know all of that, right? And the output of a really nice photo was just as a result of loving the process of doing what you do.
Yeah, I can relate to that. Absolutely. I mean, you know, you think about it for musicians, it's like, I think I was saying it before, like, you know, we were dissecting songs, and it's like, to me, that's the best part about the whole process.
Yeah.
You know, you start from nothing, you make whatever that something is a little bit better than it was initially, you know?
Yeah.
I got so many, like, voice memos of guitar riffs and melodies and everything. I haven't actually gone through all of them, you know. And then you kind of, sometimes you flick through and it's like, oh yeah, forgot about that one. How did I play that one? Oh, that's shit house, you know.
What type of guitar do you play?
Oh God, I can play one at a time, but I'll pick. I think I got about 15 or 16.
15.
Yeah. I'd probably go. I don't think it's on that cover. No. I'd probably go. I got a Gibson ES, which is like a big shaped body. I bought it because I love Chuck Berry, and he only played an ES, and I'm like, I gotta get one of those.
The blues influence.
The blues influence, and you know, I remember seeing Back to the Future and Marty McFly's playing that guitar, and I'm like, whoa, that looks cool. I've always wanted one, and I've, you know, finally got one, and it'll probably come to the grave with me. I couldn't leave that to any of my kids.
It
is a beauty.
Do you have kids?
No, not that I know of. But it's funny because, like, I've got my first few guitars. Bless my parents. I dreamt of those guitars, so I wanted it's what's called a Gibson SG, because Angus Young had one. My parents were like, okay, well, if this is going to make him practice, we'll get him one. You know.
Yeah.
So bless him, I had one of those. I still got it, and then it was like, what was the second guitar? Oh, a Les Paul. I wanted a Les Paul because, you know, Slash had one.
Yeah.
I was still trying to work out who I am and what I'm doing and what I like playing.
And your style.
Yeah. So I had,
But you idolize these people, and you're like, oh, I want to do.
Yeah, I wonder if I can
wanna-
do what they
yeah,
do
yeah.
because I've got the same guitar. So I was just a
Yeah.
young, naive, stupid idiot. You know, it's like, yeah,
Uh,
maybe I should have said, oh, also I want that, and also that, and that. I should have just kept going. But I know they would have done it, and I feel guilty now.
I think the sign of like a good artist, or like a sign of like a good approach to take, is to mimic.
Yeah. Well, mimic and then kind of adapt
Correct.
your own style. Yeah.
Correct. Yeah.
So you probably do that with editing photos.
Well, my idol photographer, he lives in Bali, and he's married to a pretty high up there model.
Right.
And on his YouTube channel, about 4 years ago, he did a video of how he set up his camera, because all the buttons are customizable.
Right.
And he was going through and explaining the reason why he would customize a particular button, even though the little marker on it would say something else, why he would customize it for this particular function,
Right.
either, you know, through the process of holding the camera or like knocking it somehow, you limit the chance of changing a setting type thing.
Okay. Yeah.
And it really struck me, and I was like, okay, all right. So I saved up and I bought that camera and I customized it the way that he
did it.
He did
Yeah.
it. And so I'm always like, I'm actually shooting with his camera.
That's exactly the same thing as buying your favorite guitar player's guitar.
Yeah. Buying your favorite guitar player's guitar,
Yeah.
learning how to play it, working out your style,
Yeah.
adjusting it to, you know, what you like and what you don't like, and making it your own.
Yeah. Absolutely. Sorry, just reshifting.
That's all right. That's all right.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, obviously being a bit more mature than I was back then, I find myself now buying things to suit what I know I'm going to be using them for.
Yeah.
So, for example, playing a certain particular model guitar for, you know, a country album, or, you know, recording a country album because it's going to suit that sound. Not because I want it to be, you know, Johnny Cash. You know what I mean? So it's the same kind of thing.
You did want to be Johnny Cash. Or Elvis.
Who did I want to be? That's a good question.
/ you wanted to be John Farnham.
I wish I could fucking sing like him, I tell you. Yeah, I do. I wish I could sing like him. I remember idolizing AC/DC. Like, I remember seeing the first film clip. I remember watching the first ever film clip that I'd seen of him. And you know, you're familiar with AC/DC. The guy, he's wearing a school suit.
Yeah.
He's about, 2'2".
Yeah.
And he's 100 miles an hour. He's like the Tassie Devil, just like running around, laying on the ground, playing his guitar, spinning on the floor. And I just remember seeing that, and I'm like, what the hell is he doing? Like, how are you even playing the right notes? You're a maniac, you know?
Yeah.
And it's funny now, like playing with people that had toured with them back in the day. They're like, he'd just sit in his band, in the band room, and just keep to himself with a cup of tea, and then the switch would flick and he'd be out on stage and he's just completely different, So I was like, that's pretty cool. Yeah.
He obviously just knows how to like turn it on. And, and perform.
Yeah,
be a performer.
And I actually got to meet him a few years ago.
Yeah,
and he actually signed the guitar that I was talking about before, which I'll find a photo of it. I think I've got it on my phone, and
that is so cool.
Yeah, it is really cool. I forgot what I was going to say. What was I getting at?
Just about he was a real performer.
Oh yeah,
that whole
and
piece.
like I remember actually speaking to him, and it's like, and I just kept thinking, this is totally not the guy you would expect.
Yeah,
When he goes on stage, like he was so quiet, shy, I suppose is a way to put it.
Maybe he came across shy.
Yeah, I don't know.
or like
Yeah, I don't know.
quietly confident?
Possibly. I mean, the guy's worth $300 million. He's,
Mm.
he's probably spoken to many people like me,
Mm.
asking him the same questions. Probably, it's like, oh fuck, this guy again, another guy asking the same question. But anyway, yeah, it was fascinating to me. It's like, he was so reserved, and then it's like total opposite to what he is on stage, and it's like Mick Jagger's probably the same.
Yeah. I
You'd
think Mick Jagger, like, he tours with like 3 shipping containers for all of his gym equipment.
It wouldn't surprise me. And I just saw that they're on tour now.
He's like in his late 70s, isn't
He's
he?
80.
He's 80.
He'd be 81 or something. Like,
Bro, what like nutrition has he got going on?
I don't know,
The
but
fountain of youth.
defies all odds. It's like,
I think it's so good though that you see people like that, because it is all about keeping moving,
yeah.
keeping doing the things that you love doing, and
Well, they're not doing it for the money.
yeah, and they don't need to, right?
They could easily just go, oh, I'm going to stay in bed for the rest of the
Yeah.
But I think that's the thing with people that are creative. It's like I said earlier about lockdown happening, and it's like I couldn't really do what I would normally do. It almost felt like, not the best way to put it, I suppose, but it felt like, what do I exist for? Like, if you can't do what you would normally do and what you enjoy doing and what you do for a living. So, yeah, I can understand why they would be out there at 81 doing it. It is not for the bank account.
It's for the fans
I think it's more for themselves.
and the endorphins.
Yeah.
It's for the endorphins.
Yeah. It baffles me. It's like, but I kind of get it.
It's probably for that self-satisfaction, that you do still have it.
Or you can still do it, yeah.
Or you can, yeah. Exactly.
And then you got like Bon Jovi, who doesn't sound very good at the moment because his voice is shot. And it's like, okay, well, how do you tell him you can't do it anymore? That's one way to destroy somebody. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, Jagger at 80 still doing it well. Bon Jovi at mid-60s, unable to do it, But yeah.
I mean, it's just
like it's that card. It's that card. Once your card is picked, for whatever reason,
circumstance. It's circumstance and the luck of the draw.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
What do you have plans for the rest of the year?
For the rest of the year, I might try and get out an album at the end of the year.
Okay.
Been 5 years since the last one. I've got a lot of stuff that I'd written and recorded, like in the can, that I haven't revisited. So like stuff from Nashville and stuff that I've done down here. So I'm going to try and pick out what I think is the better ones, and maybe work on some that need to be worked on.
Yeah.
Or, totally scrap ones that I don't think can be anything. Yeah, so I'll try and get that done. There's a fair bit of touring and stuff towards the end of the year.
Around Australia.
Yeah. Which is great because you get to travel and see places you wouldn't think of going to.
Do you get tired when you travel, when you tour?
Yeah, I mean, if you're away for a whole weekend and you're 3 hours between gigs in the car, or from one state to the other, plane on one weekend. Yeah, it gets a bit tiring, but you just got to allow for Monday to do nothing. It does. It's not tiring at the time, but when you finish that run, you kind of like, oh Jesus, I just fucking ran a marathon.
Yeah.
How
How many songs do you reckon will be on this next album?
I mean, an album is meant to be 10 or 11 songs, they say, but especially if you're getting it done on vinyl, which, the distance between the start and the end, technical stuff. Yeah, I'd probably try and aim for about 10 or 11, and then, yeah, kind of. I mean, you could ask me this question in 5 months and I've got a completely different answer.
We'll get you back.
But do you know what I mean? I'm like,
we'll
yeah.
get you back how the touring's gone.
Yeah. At this moment, I want to do an album.
Ross has to sign off on it first. He's got to help you reconfigure all the elements.
Mate, he will be hearing it, trust me. He's actually the first point of call when I finish something, and it's like, oh, I need to know if this is worth pursuing.
That's so good.
Yeah.
Having a soundboard of someone that you trust and you can rely on to give you like honest feedback.
Yeah.
I think is like really important.
And that's great. Like it's probably, especially in the music industry, there's a lot of, people would take criticism to heart, whether it's from punters or band members or management or whatever it is. But it's nice. I'm what's the word? I am strong-headed enough. What's the word for strong-headed?
Stubborn.
Yeah, yeah, maybe actually. I'm
confident enough.
Yeah, maybe I'm confident enough to go. Well, if someone's going to criticize something, I'm not going to take it to heart.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm kind of. Yeah, I probably like you. If someone criticized something that you've done, like constructively criticized it, I mean, you'll kind of take it in your stride and go, okay, well, I want to make it better, instead of going, oh fuck, what does he know? There's a lot of people like that I've ran into.
You're humble. You're humble. You're humble enough to go, you know what? If someone's got some feedback or criticism, okay, like that's their perspective.
Yeah. Why are they saying it?
Yeah.
It's more the question. It's like, okay, well, I want to know why they're hearing that the way they're hearing.
Yeah. And I think feedback's interesting because it is feedback, you get to choose whether or not you take it on or not.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And
I think you should always take it on. I think you should always take it on, even if you know what they're saying is wrong. Just kind of take it on and go, okay, well, he's wrong, but why is he thinking like that? What made him think or her think like that to say that?
Is that because you're trying to appreciate their perspective?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You think about some of the best albums in the world. Some of the best albums probably had bad reviews from certain people. And then you kind of go, well, why would that get a bad review? It spent 3 months in the number one spot. Like, you know what I mean? You kind of I try to get the good and bad in everything, I suppose is maybe another way of putting it. Yeah.
Try to remain balanced.
Yeah, not necessarily sitting on the fence with everything because I know, but yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah, I just try to see where people are coming from, I think, especially with music.
I mentioned before about how I understand that things aren't always in a straight line. They're kind of like this. That meandering, I think, is an element of that is taking on feedback, regardless of whether or not it's positive or like constructive, and taking it on because it can adjust your flow.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think if you're the type of person who works well with having that flow and those ups and downs, then that's a good thing. Like you'll get there in the end, and you know.
Yep.
But yeah, I look, some feedback, I'm like, you know what? Okay, like I get that. I understand. But I may not necessarily change
or
anything.
agree with it. Yeah. And I find myself the same as you. You know, everyone's entitled to their opinion.
Yeah,
you know?
everyone is entitled to their opinion, but then in order to not get analysis paralysis, you're like, you know what? We're just gonna put that feedback over there. And we're just gonna continue doing what we're doing.
That's right.
Yeah,
that's exactly right. Exactly right. Yeah.
Amazing. Well, we've been going for a while.
How long has it been?
So just over 2 hours.
Wow. Well,
but
we've spoken a lot of shit.
We did have that technical difficulty, but the audio will come out, so that's all good.
Well, I think in that spot you can just put a picture.
Yeah, 100%.
I don't know, is that what you do?
Yeah, I can do that.
Don't take my advice.
I can't wait to listen to this album.
What's your favorite record in the collection? Because that was the first thing I noticed.
Look,
I think once we're done, I'll be flicking through for about 5 minutes just to see what there is.
Fleetwood Mac. I do have a Daft Punk in there somewhere.
Oh, right.
And a couple of other classics like Michael Jackson.
Yeah. All the good shit.
Like
there
that.
you go.
Yeah.
It's Fleetwood. Is that Rumours? Yes, it is.
Yeah. How can people find you, Aaron?
Well, all the social media stuff.
Yeah.
You know, all that jazz.
I'll
Facebook.
I'll have it come up.
All right, you ready? Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. I'm on TikTok. YouTube, Spotify. That one's up here.
Yep.
You're gonna put that one up there.
Yeah, done.
Apple Music. Oh, anyway, you know what it is.
Yeah.
Somewhere.
Yeah. Any lasting comments or advice to anyone who's looking at taking up music or songwriting?
I think the best advice I was ever given was by the late, great Ross Hannaford. He goes, I'll see if I can word this the way he worded it. He goes, if you're a good person and a great guitar player. Oh, hang on, I think I got it wrong. Give me a sec. Oh, it's gone. I got to word it the right way.
All right,
think about it.
You think about it. I'm gonna go to the toilet.
Yeah, and then we can cut it.
Yeah.
Done. Fucking, how does it go? If you're brain freeze.
Did you remember it?
No. Fuck. Brain freeze. Ask me again, and I've got something else in reserve. I can't believe it.
All right, we're back. The question was, if what advice would you give someone who wanted to take up music or songwriting?
That's right. My advice would be the best person you can first.
Oh, why?
Well, because if you're a great guitar player, musician, whatever, but you're an arsehole, no one's going to work with you. If you're an okay musician and, a really good person to be around, well, nobody wants to hang around an arsehole, do they? So that's how I look at it, be yourself, be humble, be dedicated, work on your craft all the time. It's like anything, I think, really.
I think it's so true because one of my core philosophies is people will always remember you based on the way you made them feel.
Yeah.
And so from a photography context, like I'm very open about myself and always cracking jokes or making myself look silly and, all this type of stuff.
Join the club.
Yeah. And we always have a good time, right? And so if they leave a photo shoot laughing or elated because they've had a good time, there's more chance of them going and telling other people.
Sure. Yeah.
And
that's a job well done.
Yeah, it's a job well done, and sure, like the photos will turn out really great because I've finessed the editing style and all of that.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it's like how they feel when they leave.
Yeah. It's all about human connection, I think, too.
Yeah.
Like, I think for what we do, for what musicians do, your job is to connect with whoever's listening to your music or watching you on stage or whatever.
Yeah.
Talking to you at the merch table, whatever it is, you've got to have that connection to make them, as you said, want to come back or go and tell people about what they've just seen.
And I like what you said. If you are just a good person, then you're more likely to get other people who listen to your work to like you.
Yeah.
I think because there's this like connection between and I know you mentioned like if you're an asshole and you make music, people will listen to your music, but then they'll work out that you're an asshole and then you won't get anywhere.
Yeah.
Right? So there's this like authenticity piece.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And like realism, like so if you're a good person and you make average music, you can keep finessing your music making skills,
making it better,
to get it better.
Yeah.
And then that's how you
feed off other people to improve things, I think. I mean, I kind of look at that as more like in terms of being, in talking marks, a session guitar player, so going to work for other people for their stuff. I think probably the reason I do that and get work like that is because, I'm not the greatest guitar player in the world, but I must be okay to be around enough to go, he suits this, he's playing and he's enjoying it, we're enjoying it. That's all that matters. I mean, if I went in there and said, listen, I'm the greatest guitar player in the world, I'm going to play this song now and it's going to be really good, I'm sure someone's going to say, get the fuck out of here. You know what I mean?
They're going to be like, Aaron's a little bit of up himself.
Exactly.
Who does he think he is?
And the funny thing is, like, you actually meet people like that.
Yeah.
And it's like, you probably do in your industry too. It's like, well, you need your feet back on the ground, pal. Just hold your damn horses,
That needs to be on a T-shirt.
What's that?
You need your feet on the ground.
Yeah,
pal.
you're off somewhere else.
Yeah.
We'll get those t-shirts.
Get grounded.
It's funny what the band members. It's funny you say that. My 30th last year, the guys in the band had got me a t-shirt made up. And there's this thing that I always say when I'm kind of organizing stuff, and
Yeah.
you know, it's is don't make your problem my problem. I've got a habit of saying, like, for example, if I hear somebody bitching about something or somebody or whatever it is, it's like, dude, I got my own shit to worry about. I don't need to.
Were you thinking that when I was like, oh shit, we had like a technical problem with the camera?
Oh,
So
no.
Don't make your problem my
No,
problem.
no. But I found it funny that, like,
I think it's so true.
well, yeah. I mean, not to be brutal about it, but it's like, well, everybody's got their own thing they're dealing with. Like, you don't have to
Yeah.
force problems down somebody else's throat, unless you're really needing help. Then of course I would listen. But it was just funny you said about the t-shirt, because they made that t-shirt for me and it says on there, "Don't make your problem my problem." So it's like, I'll wear it one day.
So you haven't worn it?
I've worn it once, actually.
Oh, okay.
Once.
On your birthday?
No, where was I? I don't know where I was, but someone did actually come up and say, "That's a cool t-shirt." It's like,
It is a cool t-shirt.
yeah.
I think it's funny how a band member made it for you.
Yeah, I was blown away. I was wrapped. I was like, "That's really cool." And there was another one that actually somebody got for my birthday, and it said like hot potato, fruit salad, and something else. Like, because I was playing with the Wiggles, that like gave me this t-shirt.
Yeah.
That they got made up. Yeah, if anybody listening, feel free to send in some t-shirts. What was the one we want to get made? Keep your feet on the ground,
pal.
Any listeners out there who want to send old Drew a t-shirt with that on it?
Yeah. We'll have a merch link, on the
PO
website.
box is right here.
Yeah.
What an idiot.
Do you have a lot of merch like on your website?
Well, thankfully, no, because a lot of it's gotten sold. But I haven't had. I've got to get a new run done.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
like, there's some few t-shirts and stuff, and not many vinyls, not many CDs, which is good.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's probably another reason to go and do another album.
Since we've been sitting here, I've been trying to work out who your doppelganger is.
Oh, bring it on! I get so many.
Yeah.
Have you got one?
No, I don't.
Well, I'll tell you. I get. Oh, this is going to lead to a funny story too. I get Billy Joe Armstrong from Green Day.
Yeah.
I get. What's his name? No, the name's gone. But anyway, quick story. I was called in to be a double for a film.
Oh.
And I thought,
He's an actor as well.
no. He for a film called, I don't think it's actually out. Joe Dempsey was the actor from, like, he was in Game of Thrones and stuff.
Yeah.
So I emailed back and I was like, well, who's the actor? So I don't want to have to go in and, hey, you need to do your hair like a mohawk. I don't want to cut my hair or anything. And it was for Joe Dempsey. And it was so funny because we were dressed the same way. They'd shaved down the beard and the moustache off to be like his, and gelled hair back. And we both crossed paths just before getting onto set. And we both stood there and were like, fuck, you look like me. Like, it was just so funny. We was dressed exactly the same. The hair was done the same. Like, we were same height. I'll see if I can, there's a photo of it somewhere, but it's just so funny.
Classic.
So maybe it was a Joe Dempsey thing.
Yeah, it could be. Because you've got like a chiseled jawline, I noticed.
He does or me?
No, you.
Me, yeah.
Yeah. And like, I've been sitting here going,
I think you've got a doppelganger too. Sorry, I'm just sorry to cut you off. I did think about it before.
yeah, I do.
Who is it?
I've got a few actually.
Give me the first.
The first one really fucked me over because it was when I moved here to Melbourne.
Fucked me over. What does that mean?
Well, I couldn't go out anywhere.
Oh, really?
Because they were like, "Oh, you're that guy,"
And who is it?
and I'm like, "No, I'm not." I should have played on it, but I got it like everywhere. And of like, I didn't have facial hair. I didn't have the long hair, but it was the first celebrity Big Brother winner, Dylan Lewis. ABC radio show.
Oh, yeah.
Recovery, right? Music show.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Oh, I can see that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm gonna show you who I thought.
And then I've gotten most recently the likes of like Jason Momoa or like Keanu Reeves or like Conrad.
You might not have gotten this one though. Or maybe you have.
Who is it?
I used to watch WWF as a kid. And so when you scroll through social media, obviously I must have looked at something from then, and so things keep coming up.
Yeah.
And there's a Samoan wrestler. I think he's Samoan. I can't remember. I don't know his name, but I see his face in my head. But I'm just gonna punch in WWF Samoan.
That is so funny. That's the first time I got a WWF wrestler.
That's him. Roman Reigns.
Roman Reigns. I'll have his picture show up.
Oh, I don't know how to. Same, and you got this sort of tattoo thing going there.
Yeah.
You've never had him before?
Nah, I'd never had him before. When I worked at Australia Post, I had a work
body
colleague.
slam somebody, did you?
I know. I had a work colleague of mine say to me, "Oh, did you go down to Target today?" And I was like, "No." And they're like, "Yeah, you went down to Target, didn't you?" And I'm like, "No, I didn't."
Are you asking me or are you telling me?
Well, they were pretty much inferring that I looked like the guy that was on Target's latest marketing campaign,
Okay.
which was Gok 1.
Oh, shit. Okay, yeah. No, that wasn't me.
And I'm like, no.
Oh, that's funny.
But I've worked, I used to work banking and finance, and I worked with a guy who was called Andrew as well, mixed race, Asian as well. And like, I worked on level 7, he worked on level 6. And whenever I used to go down level 6, people would walk past meeting rooms and say, "Oh, I didn't realize we had a meeting."
Oh. It's like, no, that's not me.
But I think
That's
as I've gotten
great.
older, like I've just, I don't know, like familiar face or like,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's not a bad thing.
Nah, it's definitely not a bad thing.
I mean, yeah. I got nothing to say. It's like,
All
but
good.
it's I get that too. Yeah, Billy Joe. I got stopped in Bali.
Oh,
Asked if I was Billy Joe Armstrong.
okay.
I was like, no,
Yeah, no.
not me.
Awesome. Well, thanks
Yeah.
so much for coming
Mate, fun.
for the podcast. Thank you so much for my record.
Yeah.
I'm going to take it out of the packaging and get you to sign it.
Yes. Do we have a pen?
Yeah.
sure
I'll,
you've
I'll
got
go
a
grab a pen. But yeah.
Good fun.
Thanks everyone for listening in. Make sure you hit subscribe and that notification bell, and I'll see you guys all on the next one. See ya.
Yeah.